I think I'm live. All right. Well, time to make some announcements here. This is my first time being on the third platform here for streaming, so I'm a little bit cautious on how things kind of turn out today. I don't know if my good old laptop that I use for streaming can handle all this, but we'll find out soon enough. At least seems like stream is going. Oh shoot! I was supposed to turn on multi-streaming, I think. Just a sec. I don't want to already get in trouble for everything. It says it's misconfigured. Sorry. As usual, in the beginning of the session, it's always all about setting up the stream itself. So, so we'll figure it out eventually. Here, I might have to restart the stream here potentially. Um, okay, let's see. How do I change that information? It's way too complicated. I'm working on it. Da, 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 da. Session info, stream info. Ah, there it is. There you go. Okay, I think we're good here now. Let me just make sure all the videos are playing. And I think we're okay. The bit rates are a little bit suspicious. It says my session is misconfigured. Love to see that. Um, why is this so difficult? I wish it was just like automatically done for me so I don't have to worry about anything. But alas, now this is not necessarily a complaint. But yeah. Why is it saying that it's misconfigured? Da, 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 da. Is it the bit rate? Yeah, I don't know. Well, let me know if things look rough. Hey Devi, how's my stream on Twitch right now? Is it functioning? In YouTube? Like let me know if the stream feels a little laggy, little rough. You know what's funny? I need to unify my profile picture across 3 different platforms. This one was just the picture I had at the time while I was signing up, so we'll see. Seems like Twitch is good here. No problem on Twitch's end. I'm not really sure if things are working. Let's see. YouTube seems like it's working fine. And lastly, I guess I should check the new platform here and see if I see anything. Okay. It's running. It seems like it's running. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I don't anticipate anyone to join on the Kick side because, I've never advertised this before. But, first time for everything, as we know. I'm not really sure how to be a good steward for everything, but we'll go through it. I guess I should just pop out the chat window. Really, there's nothing else that I need besides that. Boop, boop. Okay, I think we're good here. So many things to do, so many things to figure out. Hey, Cooley. Mortis Angelus says, light mode on Discord is a wild choice. Hey, look, at least it gets the conversation going. I feel like every time somebody new comes onto my stream, they always comment on this. It's that much of a problem for a lot of people, it seems. All right. For those of you who's watching the VOD, I'm sorry that I'm going through the usual stream setup, beginning of the stream chat. But we have been working on our ECS architecture for Godot in an attempt to do some optimization test. We found out what? We found out that the array, no, structure of array as opposed to array of structure. So ECS is indeed faster in computation, but we were getting stuck on the draw method. And I got stuck on utilizing multi-mesh instance, but guess what? I figured it out. It was actually, well, it's upside down, but whatever. The problem was that you actually do need to set up the size. I had the size by default 1 1 and it didn't work. And as soon as I turned it to 32, it worked. And I guess that makes sense because like before it was drawing very tiny, but now it's like actually drawing it on pixel. But there's this still weird thing happening. But anyways, but according to the comparison, the overall draw of using multi-mesh node versus just rendering service itself didn't seem too different for me. So that optimization path has gone through. But I did find something out. There's one more path of optimization for the draw method that I think I could experiment with to do some finalizing thought, and then we can spin the wheel of topic, which we're still adding to. By the way, there's new command called, I think, what is it? Hold on, I gotta remember. It is topic wheel. You can see what topics are there, and later when I get to spin the wheel, everybody gets one vote on the topic. So you can do topic exclamation point topic space number. Unfortunately, this interaction is only on Twitch. So sorry if you're on other platforms. I just couldn't figure out my what do you call little stream gachapon Godot project to connect with any other platform. But I guess that's something that I should probably work on. Let's see. Otherwise, okay. Cake Huck says hello. I got to catch up on chat here. Cooley says Devi. Devi says I have learned to just accept your ways as yeah, exactly. I mean, you're here for it. You know, that's the vibe. Mortis Angelus, hi. We're saying hi here. Everybody's saying hi. Hello. Oh, Backup's here. Hey, Backup. Backup says, hello, I'm here to learn the game dev. Exactly. You, of all people, need to learn, huh? Right? No. So, yeah. Pretty good stuff. Throw topics out there so we can experiment with. You know, the caveat is that, I mean, people who already watch me knows this, but it's not to reveal my knowledge to the world. It's the fact that I don't know these things. But I am not afraid to learn new things. So by watching me learn, maybe you'll be able to teach me or learn something exciting. Hey, Socrates. Socrates says, hello. Let's see. Man, every platform is doing something new nowadays. So it's like I'm trying to figure out how to manage different things. And it's hard not to favor one over the other, I have to say. All right. Devi says, we have been summoned. Yeah, exactly. Everybody's been summoned. Mortis says, music synced gameplay ties into my current project. Made a music visualizer using Godot. Oh, that's pretty cool. That topic got added because one of our viewers, I don't know if this is you actually. Probably not, because I think, what's his name? Hey, where'd it go? It was somewhere here. Oh, was it in the share game progress? Yeah. This person, which is censored because of the stream mode, is making some music-based stuff and had some specific questions on like, hey, what do you think we should do? I don't know. Have I done this? Nope. But we'll find out if we land on that topic. So yeah. Okay. Mortis says, cool. Cooley says, tacos? You hungry? I am kind of hungry. But that's not me, probably. Devi says, I like the project management. I'm trying to figure out some of those project management apps, etc. And also tacos currently flooding my brain. Oh. Well, tacos and project management, they go hand in hand. Anyway, so what did I find out? What did I find out that could potentially increase our optimization? Well, let's let me show you first. So when my laptop is kind of crappy, so I'm not going to try to push it too hard because our stream will crash. But basically, when we have 10,000 objects, the updates. So right now, for those of you who's just joining us, the reminder is that there is a random position update per entity. And this means there's 10,000 entities and they're being updated. Right now, we're using ECS. So we implemented our own version of structure of arrays. And I am posting the update cycle, like each process for the position update, which is only taking like 5 to 4 milliseconds. However, the entire process is taking 20 milliseconds, meaning the draw is taking about 15 to 20 milliseconds. That's a lot. I can update this to 100,000. That's when things actually get really slow and like this, right? 42 milliseconds isn't too bad, but then the draw cycle is like 100 millisecond. Not good. And we are using multi-mesh here. So when we're using ECS plus multi-mesh, we're getting 185-ish, 200, I don't know, somewhere around there. Yeah, I remember crashing. Yes, Devi says, I remember crashing it, yeah. I'm trying to be very careful not to crash it. But just to make a point here, let me go back to rendering service. So rendering server, or not service, server, is a basically bare bone code way to render without using Node. That's supposed to be faster. And that is pretty similar, if I can find it. It's somewhere in the test over on calculate position here, update render here. So update render, this one uses multi-mesh. So if I change this to regular update render, which was using rendering service here, hopefully, is there anything else I need to set up? On the init, I'm already doing the sprite ID. Okay, cool. So this, perhaps I didn't turn everything off properly. Hold on. Well, let me show you this first, and then we're gonna try to do a proper one here. You know, at the end of the day, once we finish this, we're gonna have to go through each scenario and put it on a chart anyways. So it's not too worrisome. Arnia Mystery Hi says, what's today's topic? Today's topic, I actually updated it. Here we go. Continuing experiment and lesson on ECS and optimization in Godot. I found out some interesting additional optimization path that doesn't involve the shader. So I'm kind of excited to look at that and see if it's true or if I was foiled by the Google AI search. Like, I didn't want to search AI, but sometimes, you know, they inject kind of like AI knowledge. And I'm like, oh, dang. But we'll find out. Anyways, so I'm going to try to do a proper comparison right now. So right now, this will be using rendering server. So if you remember, multi-mesh. Oh, gosh, we got to turn off multi-mesh completely here properly. No multi-mesh here. Whenever I say multi-mesh, it reminds me of Fifth Element. Remember Fifth Element? Multipass. Anyways, that's an old reference. Let's see. 10,000. Oh, we did 100,000. I know the sprite size is different. I'm sure that'll impact some performances, but can't be that bad. So if we look at the monitor here, oh, actually, it's not that bad. At 100,000, seems like, okay, it has a lot of peak. Maybe it's because I'm not looking at it. When I look at it, 120, 110 millisecond, that's not too bad. That's the total. This is the total using ECS. It's hard to tell. ECS plus the rendering server. Oh, it does spike up quite a bit every now and then. And then if I go over here and come back, we'll do multi-mesh. So we're not going to use rendering service. We're going to use a multi-mesh. That means we got to make sure we turn off the initialization that we do with the rendering server here, so that we don't include this part of the initialization at all. So we're not actually drawing anything, I think. Oops. Hopefully. Ah. Okay. Hold on. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna crash. Just give me a second. This definitely is not a good way to do this. But yeah, so we got the multi-mesh here. We got the update render. Okay, we turned off everything. Runs, and we're gonna do 100,000 here. Let's see. Monitor. A little slower. Kind of comparable. I feel like okay, so it is clear that the multi-mesh version might be worse, but then also the each icon is a lot smaller, meaning there's more to draw. So it might not be a fair comparison. Let me change it so that the comparison is actually fair. Let's see. What do we got here? Mortis says lol, multipass. Yeah, multipass. Devi says, "Don't call us old. We're all old. We can't avoid that fate. We just gotta accept our age at this point." Mortis says, "Higher level. I'm level 32 so far. 32 for what? What are we talking about?" Anyways, Devi's still talking about taco meats. I love good old taco meats. We got like 5 minutes into the stream and already crashing. We're doing good so far. Wait, are we crashing? What are we talking about? Don't scare me. Our stream is still up, right? Okay, good. Jesus. Age equals level. I see. 32. Wow. Still a spring chicken, if I ever seen one. Very young. You guys are very young. I like how I like to act. Act like I'm like really old. I mean, I'm not really old, but I'm also not really young. I'm definitely older than level 32. All right. 100,000, bigger picture. Okay, okay. Uh comparable. So, hold on. Maybe we should take a note. All right, good old obsidian here. Let's see. We have a possible option forward, but we don't have to worry about that. Don't look at this. Hold on. I'm gonna boop. Maybe I'll create a new file here. All right. Optimization experiment result. Oh, I guess no symbol here. So we did node multi-mesh plus ECS, which is averaging around, let's say, I want to say 130 millisecond on process at 100,000. Well, I guess to be fair, I got to keep the screen open so that it's not doing like benefiting from the being hidden from the screen. So let's do that. 160, 130. It's stabilizing, but it's doing something. It's not too crazy. Mortis says, "Oh wow, to be honest, I never would have guessed. Thought you'd be younger." Well, really? Even with my new scraggly mustache? By the way, if you're wondering why do I keep this spotty, not so mustache-like facial hair, I'm trying right now. It's a challenge for myself. I have about two months left to see where it goes. And if it still doesn't fill in and it doesn't look good, then it's gonna go. I know nobody asked, but I figured I needed to mention it now that we're talking about age. Devi says, "Yeah, I really do. Lol, maybe a trip to a grocery store for ingredients in order. Yeah, go get your taco." Okay, so it is about 130. I think 130 is fair. 120 to 130, and then the next one we had was rendering server. And I'm gonna give a little hint, little individual rendering formats with ECS. And that is, let's see. I think we can do that. Do that. Go into this. Control K here. Control K here. Control K here. And I think this should be the rendering server version. 100,000. Pretty similar, I think. I feel. 180 for 1. It's a little bit more spiky. It peaks more, I think. But 124, 130, around. I don't know. I mean, these peaks definitely add to it. But it feels, I would say, effectively the same. Maybe on average, well, if you get rid of the outliers like the peaking, it might be a little better. I don't know. It's not as stable for sure. Let's see. Rebooting Brain says this time they're upside right, not upside down. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Don't ask me about that. Okay, so we got that. Definitely, I would say this is like, I don't know. On average, let's say like 140 because of the peaks. And then we had a, let's see. We had a non-ECS version, which is like pure node, like just regular node of character and sprites. And then they get updated. That one, let's say, oh, okay. Even spawning takes a long while. That scared me for a little bit. I thought I was going to crash. But you can clearly see that it's much worse. Sorry, I keep looking around because I'm like, okay, this is like at a point where my stream might crash. So this is a regular Godot node with sprite. That's around, I mean, it's still stable though. I would say that's around what, like 250-ish. I mean, this is very inaccurate measurement, but then like the thing is just order of differences, right? We're adding about 100 millisecond anyways on top of all this. These two are basically the same. We don't have to even say, oh, this is better by 10 millisecond. Not really. Experientially, they're basically the same. However, the update process is completely different, right? So this one, update takes like 160 millisecond. This one update is what? Hey, thanks for the follow dedication. This one update is 40, 30, significantly better. 40 to 30, let's say 40 millisecond, around 40 millisecond. Whoops. And, you know, this will be the same because it's still using the same ECS. We've made some significant update improvements last time. This is kind of a review for some people. We saved about 100 millisecond per update by accessing the parent array that we are accessing from. So we used to have it like this. This is like extra 4 instructions on the CPU per loop. So when we had this, and even like down here, there was adding so much instructions per loop that taking this out onto the top of the loop and then just accessing the variable directly, the array directly, save about 100 milliseconds. So that we're not even counting that improvement we made. Okay, so cool. We've done everything we can. So what more can we do? Initially, I was like, okay, we can probably use shader to have better calculation, but then it's so complicated, right? Because you have to be like, well, out of all these overlapping objects, how do we calculate which texture gets put into the front? Because you have to do calculation per pixel on the screen, right? The UV mapping. So I was digging and digging, but apparently there's one more thing we can do with rendering server. Hey, thanks for the follow, uh, dear Drathful. Dear Drathful? Maybe. I don't know. Appreciate it. Thanks for being here. Anyway, so rendering server has a multi-mesh rendering server. So the multi-mesh is the process of like taking a single texture and then repeating. Reason it benefits is because each entity is represented by a minimum set of information, right? It doesn't have to restore and redraw the texture. It just utilizes referring to it. So when I was doing rendering server, I was updating the transform per canvas item. So apparently there is a rendering server that uses multi-mesh. So I'm going to try to figure that out. Hindsight, I should have done some homework to learn that so that we don't kind of struggle through it. But, that's kind of the part of the beauty. So I'm sure we'll be fine. What the heck? How did it work without this? Oh, no. This is us. Okay. Cool. So we're going to do one more thing here. We're going to have update render via rendering server multi-mesh. Whatever that looks like. And then that means we need to initialize differently. So we're going to have func initialize rs rendering server for multi-mesh. So we're going to probably call that over here, whatever that means. And then I suppose for now we could have a little flag here. Var is rendering server. Rendering server will be false. Var is rendering server. Oh, maybe we need to have is rendering. I'm just going to make a flag for the entire thing. Multi-mesh. So we'll do this here. So we have if this, we do this. Whoops. And then we'll probably have another one here. Boop. We got to do something. What is that something? I have no idea, but we'll figure it out. Hey, Bonenkraut, long time no see. Bonenkraut says, calculating per pixel? UV? What does that mean? Well, I'm glad you asked. Guess what? Wheel topic, I think. That was a command. Is it topic wheels? Is it wheel topics? Wait, I don't remember the command. Command is topic wheel. There it is. If we land on shader code for dummies, that will be something that we will go over. Now, I'm not going to skip on the knowledge just because. UV is the kind of like language that you use in shader a lot. It just means X and Y axis of the texture. A drawing surface is represented by the coordinates of that surface, right? So if you have a square screen, when you say, hey, this point, you represent that by saying X equals something, Y equals something, right? On shading, it's called UV. Also, it scales per texture so that it's like always from 0 to 1. I mean, that's essentially it. Why is that the case? I mean, it has its own benefit and reasons for why it's doing that. But, that's probably some topic for some other day. Cooley says, get me some snack to Devi. Well, if only you guys can share snacks across the world. But yeah. Bonecross says, UV are just names for coordinates variables. There are commonly known coordinate variables for shaders and also, I don't know, texturing in general. I might be missing something. Wrestle Fressel says, yippee! Hello, Wrestle Fressel. Welcome. All right. Okay. Well, for now, well, I'm surprised that I have even a single viewer in Kick. I did hear the game development category for Kick might not be as popular, but we'll see. But yeah. Guys, I'm on Kick because Kick gave me a express partner status. So I'm like, wait, why not? So here we are. Bonin says, AI, why is UV names for coordinate variable in shader? Still no AI. Yeah, no AI on chat. I'm sorry. You can use your own, I don't know, Claude or whatever. Anyway, so rendering server multi-mesh. So how does that work? I have no idea. So let's figure out. I'm guessing if I write multi-mesh, something will pop up. Multi-mesh create. So I'm going to look at this thing here. It says creates a new multi-mesh on rendering server and returns a RID handle, resource ID. And this RID will be used in all multi-mesh rendering server functions. Once finished with your resource ID, you will want to free it. Okay, well, I'm not really worried about that right now. To place in a scene, attach this multi-mesh to an instance using instance set base. Very similar to other canvas item creation thing here where we go canvas item create. So we're probably going to create a multi-mesh, which will be a resource ID. We have multi-mesh RID. And then we probably need to set parent for this, and it says you can do that by instance set base using the return. Attach this multi-mesh to an instance to place in a scene. So I'll try that. So we'll go instant. Wait, is that not how you do it? It says instance set base. Where is that? This is a rendering server. Okay, I see. So I'm going to have to say rendering server instance set base. And we're going to take the instance multi-mesh RID to the base RID, which will be what? The canvas itself, which we already set, which was passed to us. All right. And then what do we do? And then how do we use this? Multi-mesh. The equivalent resource is multi-mesh. Okay, so this is basically a multi-mesh. So we can treat this like a multi-mesh somehow. And I don't know how. Let's see. Rendering server. Something about multi-mesh here. Allocate data, maybe? Get mesh. Instance get color. How about setting texture? I want to be able to set texture, right? Because on multi-mesh, we set texture like this. So let's see if I can find something to do with texture here. No. Multi-mesh create. We created it. Let me take a look at this document. Texture 2D will be used if the default canvas item material. Okay. I gotta be honest, I'm not really sure about this, so I think I'm gonna do a little bit of Google search here. Rendering server using multi-mesh in Godot 2D. Hopefully that'll give me something. Bodencraft says, put gambling on screen and set the category to gambling on kick. Easy fix. Oh, right. Of course. No, we gotta go with the corrupted way. Now I heard gambling is not allowed in kick anymore. Is that true? I don't know. Also, technically, I need to stop talking about kick, I think. All right. Let's see. Core architecture workflow. Right. Create canvas item RID. Yes. Parent it to the node. Yes. allocate a multi-mesh RID. Ask the server to build a blank multi-mesh container. Didn't we just do that? We did. Configure and populate. Define its mesh type. Okay, how do I do that? I mean, that's what I'm trying to look for. This is canvas item create. How about multi-mesh create? Multi-mesh. Well, this is how you set the transform for the multi-mesh. We got set mesh. Assign the quad mesh geometry to multi-mesh container. So quad mesh RID here. And I think the quad mesh is generated this way, yes. Okay, so we're going to create the quad mesh as well. So let's do that. Rendering server, quad mesh. Oh, I don't see it. Did it lie to me? Did AI lie to me? How could it? Rendering server, quad mesh create. Is that what? I mean, I don't know. I feel like it should. Doesn't exist? It just made up. No. No way. No way that it hallucinated on this. Wow, I think it hallucinated on this. Yeah, Bonus says, sounds like a fake news. Yeah, exactly. Do you verify if the AI answer is for the current version of Godot? Probably a good point. While I'm streaming, I don't really do much verification here. I am using one version below right now. Doesn't seem like there is one. Add multi-mesh. I'm not really sure what these things. Draw 2D multi-mesh on canvas item pointed to by item RID. Draw multi-mesh here. Provide a texture. Okay. Not really certain how I can use this. This seems, I mean, it says 4.x, so it seems to claim that everything is there. But at the least, I should be able to mesh set custom AAB. Is that the problem with me? Is that the multi-mesh usage, I am pretty noob at it in the first place. So I do need a mesh that is 128 by 128. That's all I actually need. I do wonder if I can just save this right here. So for example, if I go multi-mesh RID will be just RID. And then I'm going to take a look at some of the things that it does and see if there is anything that I can glean from it for my own use cases. Let's see. Assign the quad mesh geometry to multi-mesh container. So at least that should be real, right? It uses a rendering server. Mesh. I mean, it looks like this would be a creating of mesh. Creates a new mesh and adds it to a rendering server. It can be accessed with RID that returns, blah, blah, blah. So at least this will be a mesh. How do I set this as a quad mesh? Quad mesh type. Line, line, stripe, triangle, triangle. Let's see if there's anything that has to do with quad in here. Because alternatively, what I was thinking was like just saving the actual resource as quad mesh as a resource file and then accessing that and just like assigning it. So if I can find in the code itself, let's see. We get to struggle together, guys. I think that's just kind of part of the game here. So we have mesh create, which will create a mesh. But let's assume that we don't do that. Let's assume that we're using a set mesh and we can access that. That means rendering server should be able to set mesh for the multi-mesh. Ah, yes. sets the mesh to be drawn by the multi-mesh, equivalent to multimesh.mesh. Yes, that's good. And then we need a multi-mesh instance, don't we? I think so. Hold on. Rendering server function. Once finished with your RID, instance set base. So saying attach this multi-mesh to an instance. Sets the base of the instance. A base can be any of the 3D objects that are created in the rendering server that can be displayed. So I'm wondering if I actually need to make a separate multi-mesh instance somehow, or if it's okay to just kind of set that as that. But so far, I think it's doable. We did rendering server, canvas item is already created for the top canvas, parented to this nodes canvas. Okay. Bonin says, oh, no, I already read that. Not a problem. Okay. Build a flat quad mesh to represent our 2D sprite plane. So we made a mesh, regular mesh. We can get the sprite texture, which I think already exists over here, icon. And then mesh set custom AABB. So we'll do that. You know what? I'm just going to do it and hope for the best. Mesh RID will be create mesh of some sort. Yeah, I swear I saw create mesh here somewhere. Mesh underscore create. Yes. And that creates a mesh RID here. And then once the mesh has been created, we can rendering server mesh AABB. Set custom AABB, which not really sure what that means, but I'll figure it out. I mean, I can only compare it to this. And it seems like custom AABB is like whatever default value we're using. So I think we're okay here. So I think we can just kind of move on here without doing anything crazy. So we don't need to do that. But I think we do need to set mesh. So we got to say set mesh, multi-mesh, set mesh. Yes, yes. And then we can pass a mesh. I'm going to just save the mesh itself as quad mesh here. And hopefully, if I just load this in, I wonder if I can just do that, or if I actually need to do everything by rendering surface like this. It says I need to take multi-mesh and the mesh RID. And for the mesh, we're setting the size 128. So that's all we need to do actually. I'll created a mesh. And then let's say rendering server mesh size. Is that something I can do? No. Mesh surface, bland, custom AABB get surface, set. I don't really see set mesh size. I guess it is the AABB that needs to determine that. So if I were to, so instead of doing that, I'm going to experiment here. I guess I could look for rendering server Godot making quad mesh. Let's see if this has anything. Nothing there. Get mesh RID. I guess I could just grab the RID, Create rendering server instance with instance create, instance da, 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 da. Yeah, seems like this is like a lot. I think at the end of the day, all I need is the RID. So I could say, hey, this is like quad mesh, right? Obviously. And then I could just, instead of creating the mesh RID through this, I could just get RID like so. And then it'll set that. So we set the mesh for the RID here. What about the texture for the multi-mesh? We have a quad mesh here, whatever. Initialize multi-mesh resources. We did the multi-mesh create here. And then set transform format to 2D. Yeah, okay. So we do need that. Since before even doing the instance set base. So we're multi-mesh allocating. We're getting the RID. Instance count is currently probably entity count here. And actually, if this is the case, this needs to be like that. We want to do it once instead of for each item. We're doing 2D multi-mesh here. Sick. Let's see. What else do we need? Assign the quad mesh geometry to the multi-mesh container. We did that. Multi-mesh set mesh. We used the already created thing. Populate position / transform for all instances, which it has its own logic for it. I'll do that later. Tell the low-level canvas item to draw the multi-mesh by saying canvas item add multi-mesh. Okay, so that's what we need to do. Canvas item add multi-mesh. And that's it. That's the item. Oh, you get to define the texture RID here. Great. So that's where I can do it, I think. So we have this, and then at the end we can do icon get RID. Like so. I think that should do it. At least that should populate everything here as we did before. Super John Soto says, what kind of game are you making? Well, right now, well, there are several things. If we really care about this, we have this one called Through the Shatter. Obviously, we're going through a huge gameplay and graphic updates. I have a UI and UX designer that's working through it. Planning to release the demo by October. Dang, it's coming up very soon. October Next Fest. So it's coming up, so you can go wishlist it. But this is a adventure strategy roguelike with typical roguelike, procedurally generated content, but about branching narratives and exploring. So I've been working on that. As a break right now for streams, what we have been doing is going through game dev topics. So you as a viewer get to kind of add topics to the wheel, and then during the stream, for each, when we're done with the topic, we spin the wheel on the topic and we just kind of go through it and experiment and learn as much as we can. Bonin says, do you plan to release on Switch 2? Switch release is actually really hard as a Godot developer in the first place. Well, even even if you are not a Godot developer, any kind of Nintendo game release, you need to have a established game already, because that's part of the requirement in order for you to get the developer account. They ask you, oh, where's the link to your game? Give me the binary. So you need a finished game before even saying, hey, I want to do this. So yeah, sure, but it's not my priority. My priority is Steam and Steam Deck. And, making it both keyboard and controller supported. Bonin says, yeah, but have you seen all the slop on the Nintendo Online Shop? No, I haven't. I actually have not opened Nintendo Online Shop in a while. I haven't really had much chance to play. That kind of sucks that the slops are kind of overflowing everywhere. I mean, I like the lower entry, barrier of entry for game development to unlock people's creativity, but I always struggle with people, because like, I mean, it's like human nature. I think a lot of times because they want to like escape the 9 to 5, what they end up doing is they want to find a quick, easy way to make money, and they think making a game quickly would do that potentially because, like, potential revenue and gain that you can have from making a game is big, but without considering the fact that they wouldn't buy themselves the game that they make. You know what I mean? Era of Ember says, if you've never made a game before, it's very, very poor revenue. Yeah, exactly. Unless, I mean, you can get lucky, obviously. And people do have that. Slop or not, people have become successful through game development and have been. And we have friends here around us that has done that. Yeah. Eric says, I mean, yeah, I guess you could already have relevant skill and that can work. Yeah, exactly. I'm a software engineer by day, so, that's how I'm supporting. But yeah, no, I mean, like game development with anything, I think obviously you can make a good game and still have a chance of failing, right? Because you lack marketing or whatever. However, I do think that there is a standard of like, okay, well, like there is actually, I feel, a minimum success that you can get if your content or the game is actually a certain level of good. I say that as a content creator because something that I noticed, so streaming or making videos of, you could say a lot of them has to do with luck, and it does. I'm not gonna lie, it requires a lot of luck, a lot of like serendipitous coincidence and opportunity. But it's the same thing with what everybody says is like when the luck comes knocking at your way, is your content ready to receive it? Because when the opportunity happens and then you have like a really bad content, then like it's not gonna happen. So at base, are you sure your game is at a rate or level that can receive these things? I think that's something to consider for sure. But who knows? Who knows? Succeeding like this is definitely difficult. Okay. Anyways, multi-mesh, rendering server multi-mesh. So we have the set multi-mesh. We set the canvas item. We set the texture already. So we have everything set up. I think the only thing we need to do now is transform the instances per update. So we have update render here. Seems like the way they're doing it, they're going through the instance amount and then applying the transform, 2D transform here, which we already do. And in order to change the instance transform, we do it by the eye. Okay, so you do need to trigger this transform per item still, but maybe it is still better. So we'll do multi-mesh instance set transform 2D. So it'll be just exactly same thing. I guess instead of doing this, we could just have this. And if rendering server, then we do this. Elif is rendering server multi-mesh. Then we're going to do rendering server. What was it? It was the multi-mesh instance set transform. Multi-mesh instance set trans. You know what's the hardest part about using these like rendering server or like these non-typical way of optimizing and utilizing Godot is that this part is not well documented, I feel. Well, it's documented, but it's not like explained well. Like, yes, it tells you exactly what they do. sets the transform 2D for this instance for use when multi-mesh is used in 2D. Okay, but how would I have found this in the first place? By just writing and searching like interesting key text, I guess. That's something that we need to figure out probably. Anyways, so we're gonna probably save the multi-mesh RID here. So instead of doing that, we'll do this. So that will be available. We're going to come over here, provide multi-mesh RID. Index will be I. And then the transform will just be straight up transform here. So exactly the same as regular canvas item, except we're using multi-mesh here instead. We have an error here because of that. There you go. All right, so I think we have it set up now. Moment of truth, if it'll work or not. So we're going to say it is a rendering server. Well, it's not actually. It's a rendering server multi-mesh. Updates already there. Init has been set up. And we are on ECS. Okay. Well, I'm going to do small number first. All right. Update is happening. No error. But the drawing is not happening right now. So I'm going to have to figure this out. It says the canvas item is null. Canvas item, I thought I passed it when I was initializing this. Let me see. On start experiment for ECS, which is true, canvas is begotten and it gets passed through. So I think I'm going to take a look here and see what's happening. Hey, Animus Vox says, hi, trying multi-mesh? Nice, yeah. So we already tried a node-based multi-mesh. So one more level right now, what we're doing is using multi-mesh via the rendering server and see if it improves the performance even better. Because that's what we're all about right now. I'm going to skip this right now. Boop. Okay, we're getting down to rendering multi-mesh. Multi-mesh RID gets created. Allocation data happens fine. The mesh gets set without a problem. The canvas RID, which is this, I might have flipped something, so let me just make sure. Oh, yeah, I did flip it. Multi-mesh RID is the second one. Canvas is the item, I think. Canvas item, add multi-mesh, like that. Hopefully that'll do it. Let's see. Okay, something's happening, but not really. It still says the canvas item is null. I'm a little confused. Canvas item set parent. Do I have to set it as a parent? Do I need a separate canvas item for drawing? Hey, Baka Design. Hey, Eden. Hey, long time no see. Hello. We got Eden here. We got Baka here. Baka says, Opus Caps Lock. Opus Caps Lock? What does that mean? Roblovellet says, have you tried GECS? Is that the plugin for ECS on Godot? I have not, and I think that's probably something we might want to experiment with. In addition to see if it has any benefit in terms of optimization. Because that was the original angle we came with, right? Because the whole point of ECS, where you have a component as structure, allows you to have better CPU caching for things with a lot of repeated numbers. So we're kind of mimicking that with how we're doing it. Of course, it's not like C# or C++, so maybe there's a limit to how optimized it can be, but we get to still kind of experience it. Eden says, truly long time no see this time around. I think you mentioned moving places. Either way, how has it been? Yeah, I'm in my new place. You can kind of see that the background is a little bit better or a little bit different. I'm in my new office. Place has been good. My new apartment has got like swimming pool, huge gym, so I've been working out almost every day. So things have been good. Additionally, what's new is that I'm also on Kick right now, which, obviously has absolutely no chat right now. or viewers, but it's okay. Um, but yeah, Roblo, that's kind of interesting. I do want to look into it and see if it has actually like real value. But right now, I'm kind of focused on experimenting within this. Okay, so I think I might be misunderstanding something about this. So I'm going to go back here, try to understand where it's doing the canvas item add multi-mesh. We do the canvas item multi-mesh, and then we provide the texture. It's saying that the canvas item that I provide is null. I'm not really sure if that's happening because it's not instantiated. Like, it didn't do that when we went this. When we're doing regular rendering server without the multi-mesh. Hello, why is there only one? Wait a minute. Sprite RID. I set this to false. Oh, because it's returning. Jeez, that's why. All right. Anyways, so we do this. That works fine. Only thing is that we're adding canvas item set parent, and then we're setting the parent to the RID instead of doing the add multi-mesh to the thing. So I wonder if there needs to be another layer. Like, we need to create another canvas item and then add that to the overall as a parent, maybe. So I'm going to probably look into that real quick. Bonan says, can you not autocorrect in your mind? Of course I can. I see that you've mistyped on purpose to test that. Strudelhunt69 says, hey, do you monitor your memory garbage collector or processes? How? Or GD? Or also for C#? I haven't used C# in a very, very long time, so I might be a terrible person to answer that. But at least in Godot or GD script, I mean, I'm sure you could do this with C# too. There's monitoring that shows you memory usage, and you can kind of tell your kind of garbage collection, so to speak. Like, for example, you do need to free resources in GDScript still, unless it's ref counted. So you have the auto garbage collection for entities or classes that are reference counted, meaning the system counts the reference, and then if there's anything dangling that's not handled, that it auto cleans it up. But for nodes in a tree, you have to manually clean that, and it's considered orphan nodes. And I do pay attention to orphan nodes, yes. A lot of times when there's like a performance issue, sometimes you get the whole orphan node increase sometimes. So in that sense, I do pay attention to it. Strudel says, do you trust this monitors alone? For the time being, that's all I have paid attention to. I didn't really have any need to do any more profiling other than that, but maybe there's something else. Roblovelva says, I've concluded ECS in Godot is a square peg for a circle slot. I think I do agree, just because the way the most of the node works in Godot is just not ECS shaped, as you say. But I think if you are really stubborn on using and optimizing on Godot, and you have a case where you're like, okay, well, this mechanic is a lot of data in or a lot of components that are the same shape that has different properties and values, then you might have reasons to do this like temporary or like just kind of one-off ECS thing. I did read about ECS a little more than what people have mentioned, even for people who use ECS for Unity. We're saying that like it's not about doing one or the other. Best case scenario, you consider what use cases you have and make decision on when to use ECS versus when to use kind of like composition style. Because, ECS style actually is terrible if you have a lot of properties that a class or entity needs to own that mutates a lot. And it's just like one-time use or like one or two times use. It defeats the purpose of using ECS. So I think there's some real critical thinking that needs to happen there. Anyways, I'm going to go back to looking at this example here to see if there is anything else that I'm missing here. Populating instance is whatever. It doesn't really matter. This is just setting the transform for each thing. I don't have to do mesh AABB, I don't think. The only thing is that the canvas item that it's trying to assign in my code is empty. So this one is actually just creating a canvas item straight up. So I'm wondering if I could do that. So if I say canvas RID and then or item RID, and then I do rendering server create canvas, or canvas create, I guess. Canvas create, and then I pass that. Or can I do that? Can I not do that? Yeah, I can. So I do canvas item create. Oh, this is considered canvas item. Canvas item create, which does exist. Let's say I do that, and then I sign it. Why is this erroring? Expected end of statement after. Oh, var. And then instead of doing all that, I do canvas item set parent. I think that's it. That's probably it. So I'll set the canvas. So I have a canvas item that the multi-mesh is being drawn on, and then I set that as a child of a overall canvas that I'm drawing on. And I'm hoping that that's going to fix it. Let's see, we'll do false here, and we'll do true here. Strudel says ECS should be nice. I mean, ECS has its value, as we said. I mean, we can do further kind of like concluding thought research later. Okay. It worked. It worked. Okay. I think. Yeah, we're on false and true. Yes, yes, yes. All right. So remember, 100,000. Well, we're going to do 10,000 first just for the anticipation and build up. I don't. Okay. I feel like this is kind of promising, no? Actually, it's about the same, isn't it? It's adding 5 to 10 millisecond on the rendering. So the update is about 5 millisecond. I mean, this feels okay. Well, let's go to 100,000. This is where the test is happening. I feel like it's better. Is it? Okay, actually sub 100 millisecond. We are getting sub 100 millisecond, which we weren't getting before. It is better. I would say that is better, right? I mean, like, yes, it goes up and down, but generally speaking, using rendering server multi-mesh plus ECS right now, we're getting, let's say, I want to say 90 to 120, so maybe like 95. Maybe it averages 100 milliseconds. We could call it 100 millisecond, perhaps. I think that we can call it 100. I know it peaks pretty high when we move our mouse. Look, if I move the mouse, it gets pretty bad, but generally speaking, this is definitely a better graph than... It does stutter, but then the other mode also stuttered. It's not a unique problem to this. Also, my CPU or my computer is kind of bad, so we kind of have to blame that as well. I mean, what I'm saying here is that it's clearly better. It's like the best out of all of them so far. And I imagine on a better computer, this would feel better. I'm going to say 100 millisecond here. Now, of course, I could like actually have a running average. An update was what? 45, 46. So we'll call that 40 milliseconds still. So ECS is always 40 milliseconds. But yeah, I mean, even just comparison between regular node-based multi-mesh versus the rendering server multi-mesh is very much night and day, right? So we have what? For this one, we're getting around like 90 millisecond draw. And this one, we're getting 60 millisecond draw. This one, we're getting about 100 millisecond draw. And this one is getting about 90 millisecond draw, which is kind of funny because like if you don't use rendering server at all, if you don't use rendering server at all and you're just using regular node where update is 160 millisecond, the draw itself is 90 millisecond, which is essentially same as a node multi-mesh, which I feel is kind of weird. So ideally, I mean, we could cut this down by using rendering multi-mesh, which will still not be good. So far rendering server multi-mesh plus ECS is our best bet. Strudel says, well, normally you would hide them. Yeah, exactly. Well, so there's obviously additional math that you could perform, which is like calling, where you don't draw anything. Now, I do wonder if there is a auto calling thing that happens in rendering server where we can improve even better. And that's probably the next cycle. I do wonder if this is it. Let me see. Because I really don't want to get to using shader because, you know, my graphics card in this computer is not really meaningful enough to actually use that anyways. Let's see. Partition by liveliness. So right now, what do we have? We have this multi-mesh transform update by updating the buffer, which is, where is it? Over here, we update render, and we do multi-mesh instance set transform 2D. I'm wondering if we can do something even better. Because, okay, when I was doing a research, what I saw wasn't this. What I saw was multi-mesh set buffer, which is more direct way to change values than doing an instance change. So it says set the entire data to use for drawing the multi-mesh at once to the buffer. So instead of going through each iteration, you're just kind of being like, boop, here it is. I think that's what it is. The per instance data size and expected data order is, and then it's like a tightly packed buffer here. We have the position that is 8 floats for transform here, vertex color, custom data. And we're 2D, so we only care about the position, which is the 8th float here. Instance transforms are in row major order, specifically for transform 2D. The float order is XX, YX, origin X, XY. Okay, well, this is a little complicated. But I think there is a potential here. Potential for improvement. Do I actually know how to use this? Not really, but I think we could probably try and figure this out here. We can get the entire buffer. But I mean, like, that doesn't really change. Let's see. How would I do it? Because I need to set the transform values anyways, right? So how would I, let's see, I'm doing a little bit of research here. I don't really know what it means by the XXXY origin X. I'm not really familiar with that. But we're getting closer to kind of like changing things directly. I guess I could use school for this. Using, well, Godot rendering server. convert. What is it? We have multi-mesh instance to multi-mesh buffer set. Let's see what the Google says. See if I can even see if it would, like, because you need to do some pre-processing, and I'm wondering if the pre-processing itself would be even good at all. Let's see. Hude Doer says, what you think of bools defined inside a function? What do you mean? I don't. What's wrong with it? What's the controversy here? Oh wait, I didn't read this. Roblavelet says, Svelto ECS has a great blog on XCS. Interesting. I should probably take a look. If you can link that article, I would love to read it. If you can find the blog for me. But yeah, Huide Duer. What do you mean by bools in a function? What do I think about it? What's the concern here? I don't think anything is wrong with it. All right, it says to convert individual 2D transform into bulk update using the set buffer, you need to pack your transform 2D data into a single float 32 array. Each 2D transform takes exactly 8 floats in row major layout. Okay. Let me see. Oh, there's going to be an ad here in a bit. So apologies if you're about to jump into the ad. Let's see. Not really sure. Calf says bools in a function only exists within the scope of the function. That's all, really. Yeah. I don't know if Huide was like talking about that or something else. Like if somebody on the internet was like, don't ever use Boolean within a function, which I would find very surprising. I don't know what the argument for that would be. It's like always a global Boolean. No, I can't do that. But I just was. Hude says, isn't it prone to reset every call unlike left definitions? Okay, well, you're using some wording that is a little different. I'm not sure about your left definitions. Okay, well, hold on. There's an ad on Twitch, but it's okay. We can kind of chat about this. You know what? We'll talk about this after the break. The ad will run now. But for those of you who is not on ads, I think fundamentally maybe there's a misunderstanding on how people are seeing scopes, variable scopes. Val says, ad-free gang, rise up. Hey, look, ad-free because ad block or ad-free because, it's okay. No judgment here. You don't have to support me through ads. There are other ways to support me. Let's see. Probably. Camus says, hello. Ads, what are those exactly? Val says, turbo. I think you're getting paid. Yes. Thank you. Appreciate that. Hude says, defined in the far left. Defined in the far left. Far left. You mean like this? You mean this? Like this? Are you saying left versus like tabbed like this? Like scoped in? Oh man. I guess this is the kind of world we're living in. Yes, okay. I'll explain something real quick. I'm pretty sure a lot of us already know. It's called scope. And we can talk about, the implementation, like what it means, why it needs to be scoped, blah, 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 memory-wise. That is a very interesting topic still, if you haven't heard it before, but we'll talk about it. Eden said, I don't know why I'm still without ads. Shrugs. Well, it's fine. Whatever. Maybe somebody gifted you sub. at some point and you're actually subbed. Chemist says, you will be in my prayers, but turning off unblock origin is a cardinal sin in the book of browsing, lol. I feel like the internet is unusual these. No, I know. I agree. I mean, ads are pretty bad. And, honestly, paying to get rid of ads, sure, it's one way for places to earn, but I feel like I do miss I miss the days of like not not being thrown like quote unquote free stuff and then it's like ads. Like just make me pay or nothing. The worst is when like the Netflix and the likes, well, I don't know if Netflix does this anymore, but when like what do you call, the places that you already subscribe to are like, oh, actually what you subscribe to is a minimal ad mode instead of just like giving it to us. It's crazy. It's crazy times. Uh, Kevin says, I'll pay when I get out of college and get that corporate bag. Exactly, exactly. I trust. Val says, it's crazy if you dare to turn off your ad block for a day. Yeah, I know. Always use protection, yeah. I do have it running for the most part. It's funny because recently I looked at a design with internally a unblockable LED, which was interesting to look at. Anyways, so let's first distract ourselves a little bit. Huide. You should use booleans or variables in every scope. And I'll explain what scope is. Per need, right? So traditionally, we used to call these global and, call these local. Global because when you define it at a class level, right, you're defining it in a class level, which means these are variables that are accessible everywhere. Each function or method, depending on where you're coming from, are considered a scope, right? It's contained within itself. So everything that happens within a function, is not visible to other functions, right? Unless you're using the variables that are outside. So defined variables here is temp, something like that. This cannot be accessed on other functions. Also, it's not retained. It doesn't live across multiple calls. So if you define it here, this is the first time this variable is being used within this context. So it's set to false. It's the first time it comes up. Once the function finishes, whatever local variable that used to be here is tossed. It's gone. Yes. So you should be aware of that. So if you need a variable that needs to live across, you can either set it as a global, if you need it saved that way, or if it's something that you need as part of the calculation for the next step and it makes sense in the function, then you should return it as like a packaged return so that you can reuse it. It's funny. Why is it like that? I mean, it's a happy accident that it's useful. But basically, what? Like, we talk about memory a lot, but basically that's all computer is, right? When you're doing operation, when you do a function call, so this is your memory. We've seen this plenty of times. Code is just written as numbers in each memory slot, yes? And functions are just some part of this memory slot. So let's say this is function. So let's say we're executing here, and then this says, oh, we're going to call A. Let's say this is function A. Traditionally, this is known as jump. And it's because we're jumping to a new memory spot. But essentially, when we say call function A, we are taking our memory pointer and we have to jump over here. But remember, we want to be able to return to this spot because this is where you left off. So you have to save this memory, the spot. You got to save this spot somewhere. So they just go, hey, here's a predictable spot. Or sometimes they use it register. That's something that's readily available either by, whatever, and save this address, and then jumps over, blah 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 blah, and then takes this value and then returns, right? Jump back to where we used to be. Okay, why does this mean the memory scope and then the variables matter? Well, like before jumping to a new function, you had a variable in your register that you were actively using, right? You're like, oh, blah, 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 blah. I'm using it. But when you go back into the function, all these things you've been using, you want to keep it saved, right? You don't want to lose track of it because this new function overwrites it. You could argue, well, new function could be aware of all these temporary variables and then assign it properly, but then that's so much responsibility. And function needs to be able to be called from different places. So it needs to be contextless. It doesn't have to know where it's being called from, and it wouldn't destroy the state before. So then anytime you do a jump, you could say, well, here are all the variables we've been actively using and that we need to save. We got to save in some known spot in the memory. And then later when we come back, we're just going to copy it back over and be like, okay, we're going to continue where we were. So that the function A can do whatever. So that means, let's say we have this readily accessible temporary register where the values can live. When you jump, we take these values and we save it, blah, 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 blah. That means this function gets to, you destroy this however they need to, right? And that is local variable, right? So local variable does, okay, well, we need our own calculation. We do this, blah, 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 blah. And then when it's done with the function, we don't want to be able to expect to keep these things, right? We use it. It's already used up. And this spot needs to be replaced by what used to be before the call. So the scope is important. The scope of like saying, okay, we need calculation for this function, so we're going to keep it local, not expecting it to be here when we leave this or when we come back. And when we do global variable, I think the global variables are, well, it depends on, I don't know, depending on the architecture. I'm not really sure, actually. This is something that I'm not really sure. I don't know if the global variables are actually saved in a memory or if certain part of the registers, no, it can't be because registers are limited. So it has to be saved in a certain part of the memory. Anyways, so that's why we have these like, kind of like the local variable scope, global variable scope. We need to be able to have these things. It's not really a reason behind it, but it's what it is. But yeah, Huidei, that's what we are talking about. The Pepper says, is this about OS Scheduler? OS Scheduler is a little different because OS Scheduler cares about moving things, like a paginating code into a memory versus disk, right? That's what OS handles. The code handles, and then the architecture, I think, handles how those like registers and memory spots are treated, I think. But yeah. Animus says, is this a lesson in OOP? Not necessarily. I mean, technically that's just functional coding. OOP is relevant because OOP is more strong on the language of like ownership. So tech, I guess. Let's see. But yeah, no, it also has been a while, so I'm not sure if I'm explaining everything correctly 100%. I'm sure somebody will correct me, which is what I'm relying on sometimes. Evidoodle says, you can't just blah blah the most important part. I don't want to overwhelm with like all the information. Also, there's a part of the blah blah that I'm like, well, contextually speak or conceptually, there's something that happens there where the point is that it gets saved somewhere. Not really sure where exactly. I haven't looked at my what do you call? I even forgot the course number book in a while. But just know that it's there. If you're really curious, you can always look it up. Huide says, I think there is an overlap in global variable within the script and global variable within the project or program in definition of global. That also depends on the language. What we call global, when I call global, especially in the OOP context, is within the class. Um, Within the class, and then it's accessible through the class. Yes, yes. But there is also a concept of global access between all the project. And this is unfortunate because Godot has a term called globals, which is to mean it's accessible everywhere within the project. Um, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about scoping. The scoping is that, hey, do you want to keep stuff alive only within the function, within the object? I don't think there is a one that, well, yeah. Because if you define it here, one that once the instance disappears, oh, that's another thing. This is OOP. Um, so when you have a variable like this and you set this true, that instance will have that variable to true through the life cycle of that instance. But then once the instance is gone and then you create a new version of it, what happens to the variable? It's reset. It's reset to the beginning. So what if I want to keep this variable? So let's say I make a character component instance by saying character component.new, and then I set this to true, and then when the instance dies, it gets destroyed, and then later I create a new one. I say character component new. Instead of having this reset to false, I want to retain what it was before, right? I want this to stay forever throughout the class. Then you get into the whole thing about like static variable, right? The static is class level as opposed to instance level. So there is that. Of course, if you're always wondering like, I wonder if there's a way to keep things across blah, 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 or life cycle of the game, life cycle of the instance, life cycle of the function, there's usually an answer for that. So yeah, just be careful. Um, Let's see. The Pebble says, I joined mid-paint, so I was just curious. Yeah, no problem. Lucky says, WSP. WSP. I don't know what that means. Funk Val says, I've been thinking about a method to do game state management across servers. Okay, like game servers? Like distributed servers? Okay, distributed servers, yes. Multiple servers for one game world using a type of virtual state in a third server that handles border regions. Think it's doable while maintaining low latency and proper sync. Soft relation to your memory story, haha. Yeah, it's a little bit more complicated because of the whole latency and then the like eventual consistency that you'll have to battle with. That is a actually very common distributed server service problem. What you're talking about might work. When you say third server, that is basically a database, right? But then like the problem with that is database, if you have a database in a region, a place, then from certain servers, it's more reachable than the other. So then you bias towards updating for a certain server, and then you have this like, especially if it's a competitive game, then you have issues. And then that's when you get into the routing edges, right? The DNS and then not the DNS, but is it DNS? No, it's not the DNS. It's the CDN, content distribution edge, where there's a logic of trying to find the quickest server to hit for a person while retaining the information within regions and duplicating. Very difficult problem. Clock syncing and all. Will be interesting. Bob says, hi. Hi, Bob. Val says, I guess this would never work if the server aren't literally right next to each other. It's very difficult. You will always have a latency issue no matter what, because a you have to decide a source of truth no matter what, right? And you could have multiple sources of truth for different distributed parts of the information. Like, for example, like, oh, this person's information will be over here, this person's information is over here. Whenever they try to cross reference each other, you just eat the latency. You just consider the assumption of the latency and then deal with it. But it's definitely a difficult problem to solve. Yo, it's LJ. Hey, long time no see. Says, yo, what you working on? Yeah, I actually update. Oh shoot, I updated my today message. So that's what we're doing. We're continuing our experiment with lessons on ECS optimization and Godot. We have a topic wheel that we're going to spin probably at the end of the stream today because we're about to be done with the ECS. Or maybe I can. We'll spin it at the end today. So we'll decide the topic for next week or next stream today. And you can vote the topic by saying topic 1, topic 2. One person gets 1 vote. And you can change your vote, FYI. So go ahead. If you have more topics to add to this wheel, just let me know. I'll do it. Hyuday says, many say keep most variables in scope for saving your self-debugging time. Like many say avoid using global variables including autoloader, etc. Yeah, I mean, once you get used to what you're doing, it's fine. But basically, the best practices for a variable lifecycle is keep the variable as small of a scope as needed, right? If this variable is only needed for this operation, make sure it stays that way. That's why we say I don't want to, because as soon as you start adding like global, like for example, if I do is rendering server here, and later during the function, I'm like, oh, I need a variable named is rendering server, but I don't want to touch the global. Now I'm like worried about this like accidentally overlapping this variable name or having namespace issues. So you just kind of, there's like a lot of things. Wait, why is topic wheel not working? Oh my gosh, hold on. Did I make it so that only I have permission for testing? It's not my fault, I swear. I know. Hold on. I might have to restart this real quick. Here, I'm going to close this real quick. What is it? Messiel Jabetsky says, I'd say first think about why do you want to have something in global scope, and then search a way to not do it globally. In worst case, do singleton. Well, I don't know. Some people may feel that that's controversial. Hey, Nightbat, yo. Bob says, you read my chat message? Did I? Sorry. Bob says, hi. I will never understand computer science. I already wrote 5 times. I have studied computer science for 4 years with no degree. Wait, what do you mean? You studied it, but you don't understand? You understand it. You understood it for 4 years. Isn't that what you're saying? Let's see. Spin the wheel is my command. Has to be broadcaster. Topic vote is fine. Oh, you have to have a berry folk? I guess you don't need to. Here, I'm gonna make it so that you don't have to have a berry folk to vote. And then spin wheel is me. Topic wheel. You don't have to have a berry folk for this. Right? Yeah. There you go. Let's test it real quick. George, can you do the topic wheel again? Okay, worked. Great. All right, just give me a second. Don't vote yet because it refreshes per every session. I'm going to export this real quick. Or not that. Export all, release. Don't vote yet. I'll tell you when you can vote. There you go. And then I'll spawn everyone. Test. And then I'll spawn. There you go. Okay, cool. Now you can vote the topic for spinning at the end of the stream. But yeah. Keep the variable as small as scope as possible. Chemist says, are we allowed to ask what you worked on as a software dev? Yeah. I mean, it's a known fact. You can go check out my YouTube channel. But basically, I started my channel because during the first wave of big tech layoff, I was laid off from Google. I worked at Google for 2 years. Before that, I worked at Amazon for like 6, 7. Well, actually, Google for 3 years, Amazon for 6 years. Before that, AT&T. Anyways, so I was a software engineer. Right now, after 3 years of just doing content making, I just came back to software engineering. So basically, similar level of things. So I'm a software engineer first, like infra software engineer first before game development. But I've been doing this for 3 years now, so I feel a certain amount of confidence. At the least, I think my confidence is in learning things I don't know. LJ says, "Yeah, you didn't have a stash last time I saw you." Yeah, I know it's a little messy, but we're working on it. Da, 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 da. Topic wheel. We got the votes going. Yeah, everyone. I'm probably will be ending my stream very soon, so go ahead and choose your topic right now. Topic wheels, and these are the topics so far, and we'll spin it. But okay, so what were we working on? We did the multi-mesh rendering service. Oh, we were seeing if we can do the buffer version of this. I'm not even sure if it's worth it. Let's see. So it looks like for each of them, we're doing the transform 2D to get the individual transform. And then it's saying that create this buffer thing and then set the buffer this way. Ooh, I see. Interesting. You know what? I want to try this out. I want to try this out just to see if it works. So let's make a buffered version. So I'm going to create a buffer here. And then we'll do a wheel spin and then we'll rate out here. Nightbet says, the stash made me question if I'd sleep through a year. Yeah. It's temporary. Okay, so we need 8 floats per 2D transform. And the count will be the character ID's size here. And we have a buffer. And for each thing, we are setting the transform as is. But then the buffer offset looks something like this. I mean, this is just copy and paste, so I don't even know if I'm doing this. I could even argue that this is me doing. But basically, the T here is the transform. So we'll do transform. And then once the buffer has been set up, we are just assigning the buffer. And at the end, outside of the loop, instead of doing one individual multi-mesh update, we're doing rendering server multi-mesh set buffer. And we're doing that for the multi-mesh RID. And the value is the actual buffer here. Aha. I mean, this should be faster, I think. So let's see. So we're doing rendering server multi-mesh on a ECS mode. This is our last thing. Okay, first of all, it's working. That's what I wanted to check. 1,000 is good. 10,000. Okay, it's looking pretty good. 24. I mean, this looks comparable. Like it's what it was before the buffer approach, I think. So here it is, the dreaded 100,000. Boom. Mm, doesn't look faster. What did we have before? Rendering server multi-mesh was about 100 millisecond. Right now we're hitting 150. Did we change something? Is buffer operation worse? 100,000. Interesting. Hold on. I gotta test this. I find it surprising that the a set buffer is a lot worse. So let me undo the changes here. And then undo this. Yeah. Huh. This is worse. Interesting. Very interesting. George says, could it be some allocation shenanigans from Godot? Well, that's why I'm using, yeah, it's possibility, but the packed version will set it to a very specific size. I do wonder if I'm, as you said, maybe the creating of a new buffer on every update is messing with it. So if I have, but I mean, that can't be that bad. Creating this big of a buffer is the problem. Let me see. Because just setting straight value off of an offset shouldn't be that big. I suppose transform.x.x, transform.y.y. This might add to it. Give me a second. I'm going to do my best to optimize this part as much as I can and see if it's still bad. So instead of update render, I'm going to do this on init. Typically a bad idea, but we'll do it anyways. Because I want to really see if it's actually that bad. So we're creating the buffer only once. And then we're reusing that on update render. And then for transform, we're going to grab transform X, which will be this. Var transform Y. I mean, at 100,000, this might add to the instruction because we're doing 4 additional instruction per turn. Transform origin, which will be this. Okay, what else? I think that's as best as I can get. Let's see. Oh, hold on. Invalid assignment of index 0 with value of type float. What? Do I actually need to? Oh, whoops. Yeah, that reset it. Hold on. On init. Okay, that's fine. We're going to do 100,000 here real quick. Okay, it definitely feels slower. Yeah. Set buffer is slower. Interesting. Maybe it's just like the action of setting this like big file all at once is causing more trouble, which is surprising to me because like I would think that it's just a pointer assignment. Yeah, apparently it's slower to use this buffer set. I mean, maybe I'll do a little research off stream to see if I can get this any faster and then just kind of report on it next time. But I think we can move on here. Uh, Val says, this is still making the buffer every time. No. Well, on init, this only runs when I hit reset. So it's creating the buffer of this size once. So it's allocating a memory. Over here, it's just assigning the buffer value only. So we're not creating every time, I don't think. Unless I wonder if there's a way to just directly access the buffer and edit the buffer as opposed to setting the buffer. Because the problem with set buffer is like it's taking this value and it's copying it, right? I would think. I think that might be what's causing the slowness. But we'll see. I don't know. I'll take a look. It's definitely slower. Macy says, question, why are you doing these experiments? Meaning, do you have any use case behind them? I mean, use cases that in the future, eventually. Optimization is a topic that we do. Sometimes as a content maker, I do it for the sake of content making. Just learning is interesting. I have my game development that I do anyways. Part of the argument that I was making when I was doing these like topic thing, because I have gotten feedback that people do enjoy my content for like explaining things in ways that I don't understand, but like learning to understand. So it's kind of a strategy of streamlining my content. So because now I am back to work or whatever, and I'm infrequently streaming, I'm trying to make the streams more segmented in that like every stream feels like it's like part of a show or like part of a agenda. So going through like different topics, learning is relevant to me as much as relevant to people who are viewing my content. And then after that, taking the learning that I have from these sessions and turning it into a full video and shorts is a lot easier for me as well. So that's kind of the motivation behind all this, if you're curious. Let's see. George says, I just discovered that I was already subscribed to you. Your YouTube law, you do some really nice explanations. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Could it be some allocation shenanigans from Godot? Yeah, possibly. Chemist says, I'm trying to cook up a vector database in Rust, but so far I've only gotten burnt. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm actually not very familiar with Rust at all, surprisingly enough. When I was going to school in college, we were just working with Python and Java. And I mean, obviously C if when you get to a certain class, but let's see. George also says maybe it's trying to instantiate a new buffer each time. Ah, shoot. Should have skipped the ad. Sorry. We will do the wheel spin after the ad's done, and then we will raid out. Yeah. Okay. VM Trust says Python and Java. Wow, so modern. So modern. Well, Java was the new thing when I started. I remember like it was yesterday. Android 2 just came out. Android 2.0 just came out. We were still using Eclipse as our IDE. And beginning classes were Java. However, I was a science track, so I started my computer science program in college with MATLAB. My very first language was Visual Basic. Not even Visual C, Visual Basic when I was in elementary school. Kama says, I mostly do Java too, but I just wanted to try out a system language that wasn't C++. Yeah. Val says Turbo Pascal be like. Yes, yes, I know, I know. All right, ads are almost done. We're going to do our spin here in a bit. Make sure if you're not on, I shouldn't say this. I think I'm not allowed to say this. But you can only vote for a topic if you're on Twitch, just an FYI. Until I add API for other platforms. Okay, so everybody's out of ads. Make sure you have voted for your wheel topics. Let me see, topic wheel. The topics are, I guess for other people who can't see the chat. Topics are shader code for dummies, 0 vote right now. Debugging without LLM, 1 vote. Project structure has 1 vote. Particle shaders has 1 vote. Steam Deck verification for your game is 0 vote. I almost want to not do this at all because it doesn't feel very like technical, but whatever. Project management has 0 vote. Music synced gameplay 0. We got network gameplay at 0. VM, you got to do top exclamation point topic 1 like that. You get 1 vote per person. Now, this is the first time using the wheel spin, so it might not work. We'll see. We'll see. Hey, Asholi Cash says, "Hi Ezra, how's it going? Doing well. We're actually about to end here. Our experiment today was pretty conclusive. We got our best result. Once again, our best optimization result was using ECS for experiment with a lot of entities with just minimal changes. ECS plus rendering server using multi-mesh. Pretty good. And we're about to spin the wheel for next topic, which I might veto if it's really bad, but we'll see. Let's see. Macy says, in comparison to whatever was before Java, Java was awesome. Hey, thanks for the follow, Faust. Also, by the way, if you haven't already, go to our Discord because that's where I announce our schedule when I'm about to go live. I'm not as regular these days, so. And then a lot of chats. Anyways, okay, let's spin the wheel. Enough chat. Or I guess I can do. Spin the wheel. I'm a little nervous. Here we go. Boop. I can't see. Shader code for dummy? I guess that makes sense. All right, we're doing shader code for dummy next time, meaning it's beginner shader material. There are some parts that I know, that I understand already, but there are certain things that I know for a fact that I need to study going forward to do that one. So it's going to be exciting. I think we're done for today here. So let's raid out. Thanks for watching, everyone. It's been fun. Camus says, Java is still the way to go in corporate back. No, yeah. All the backend incorporations are still Java heavily. I mean, it really depends. I've seen certain sectors, like more hip people, do Go. Matter of fact, my team uses Go a lot. Also, part of it is that somebody made serverless so popular that, you know, more like Node.js, Go, even Python start to become more relevant because of that. Let's see. I think, oh, Liginger is still live. What the heck? Day 7.5. Don't know what to work on, but stuff will be done. Okay. I should eventually raid Ginger, Dev. Ginger, sorry if you're here. I swear I'll raid you next time. Let's see. We haven't been to LB. Don't quite recognize. Oh, playing game. No dev today. Hypnotic is always a good spot to go. We haven't gone to Digital Elliot in a while, so that's definitely an option. Fyra as well. Having a good time, apparently. All right, let's go to Digital Elliot today. Mr. Who Cares says, it's been so long. Yes, it's been so long. George says, I'm JavaScript here, crying inside. Val says, "Will you do OpenGL shaders or whatever Godot supports?" But I think Godot does OpenGL language. I'm not sure if it's strictly OpenGL. No, it's not OpenGL. What does Godot use here? Godot shader language. GLSL. A version of GLSL. I believe it's like a customized version of GLSL, but it's like a lot of the GLSL stuff that works online can work. You just need to massage it. Abel says, fair enough. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of things that I need to learn from you guys if you're already a shader savvy person. But, that's the fun. That's the fun of it. Anyways. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone. Chem says, I hear they pay a lot for COBOL devs. I mean, at what cost, though? But yeah, no, we can look at it together. We'll talk about it. If OpenGL is what we want to talk about specifically, then we can add that to a topic later. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you next time. God, everybody's still chatting. All right, bye. All right, after that goes through, I'll say bye to rest of the stream here. All right, bye Kick and bye YouTube.